This breakaway trio started to build on their lead to 2 minutes and 15, but since then has been very well controlled, maintained by the peloton behind, and that gap down to 22 seconds, being controlled by Alpecin de Koning on the left-hand side and Lotto Destiny. It's a good opportunity to bring in my co-commentator Ian Field. Ian, welcome. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Really looking forward to this race. It has a little bit of everything, like you said, and we're seeing the return of Matheu van der Poel today, which, yeah, for me personally, very exciting, and I'm sure for a lot of the viewers, very exciting to kind of see where he's at, having not raced for such a long time, and see how those altitude training camps that he's been doing have paid off. Because not long now until kind of eyes on the Tour de France starting the first weekend of July, so not long now, final kind of preparation races really for Van der Poel and others looking towards the Tour de France, so it'll be interesting to see how everyone's going today.
It's an interesting calendar, isn't it, that he's chosen. He's not gone to the Dauphiné, he's opted not to do the Tour de Suisse, but wanted to do these one-day races in preparation for the Tour after his altitude camp in La Blagne, racing for the win as opposed to perhaps being in the Gruppetto on some of the harder mountainous stages in the Tour de Suisse. We just saw then the Sven Nys Cycling Centre. Do you know that one well, Ian?
Yes, it hails the infamous GP Sven Nys every year. Around the 1st of January each year we have that huge cyclocross race which Matheu van der Poel's ridden many times, so I'm sure he'll have a quick look across, but it looks very different under these blue skies and 30...
Dema Valley Arshot, sorry. This is 3.3 kilometres long, and again they do this sector on 2 occasions. They've already seen it once before. Do you think he'll take some of these corners at perhaps a little with a little bit more ease after what happened earlier on?
You might think so, but it's Van der Poel. I'm sure in his head he knows that that's potential area of the course where he can make up time on others. So I'm sure he'll just kind of put that one a little bit behind him, as we see kind of the speed he carried out of that corner compared to Christoph there. Out of that corner, obviously ran it wide towards that barrier, but Van der Poel was carrying probably 3-4 kilometres an hour more out of that corner, and that's kind of free energy down the whole of this straight now that he would have been carrying. He wouldn't have had to get the bike up to speed from that lower speed as we saw with the Uno X rider, and that kind of has a knock-on effect all the way down here as we see Uno X taking up the chase now. I'm sure that was Christoph in second position, but he does have a teammate here who's doing a big turn, getting as close as possible to the leading motorbike, but that comes with its own perilous dust. These riders are going to be almost unrecognisable when they take their glasses and helmets off at the end of this one.
In terms of visibility, if you're sort of first, second wheel, although you've got the dust coming up from the motorbikes and the cars in front, if you're any further back than sort of that 10th position, you have all that dust from the riders. Just the visibility to see is incredibly...
For today we've seen a lot of punches already, and perhaps something where technology's advancing so quickly in terms of the tubeless tyre systems that little things coming quicker and quicker to these riders to try and help with reducing the simple number of punches that we get in a race like this.
Any big changes to the tyre pressure, or is it only a slender difference?
It would be a slender difference, if any. As I said, the technology has gone wider and wider, and in actual fact all the testing and everything over previous years has shown that lower tyre pressures are actually faster. Keeping that tyre in contact with the road it is faster in general, rather than, I know when I certainly got into road cycling, God knows how many years ago, we were trying to bend track pumps, trying to get 120 PSI now.
That's the second and final time that they will do that sector, and he's onto the smooth roads. Being chased down at the moment by Valois Trek Lions. Clement Rousseau up towards the front, just sitting in third position at the moment for Arceus Samsic. Rasmus Tiller chasing things down for unoxprocycling, the Norwegian champion. At the moment, the gap doesn't seem to be pulling out, just hovering around that 10 sector on 2 occasions. They've already seen it once before. Do you think he'll take some of these corners at perhaps a little with a little bit more ease after what happened earlier on?
You might think so, but it's Van der Poel. I'm sure in his head he knows that that's potential area of the course where he can make up time on others. So I'm sure he'll just kind of put that one a little bit behind him, as we see kind of the speed he carried out of that corner compared to Christoph there. Out of that corner, obviously ran it wide towards that barrier, but Van der Poel was carrying probably 3-4 kilometers an hour more out of that corner, and that's kind of free energy down the whole of this straight now that he would have been carrying. He wouldn't have had to get the bike up to speed from that lower speed as we saw with the UnoX rider, and that kind of has a knock-on effect all the way down here as we see UnoX taking up the chase now. I'm sure that was Christoph in second position, but he does have a teammate here who's doing a big turn, getting as close as possible to the leading motorbike, but that comes with its own perilous dust. These riders are going to be almost unrecognisable when they take their glasses and helmets off at the end of this one.
In terms of visibility, if you're sort of first, second wheel, although you've got the dust coming up from the motorbikes and the cars in front, if you're any further back than sort of that 10th position, you have all that dust from the riders. Just the visibility to see is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, you're putting all your faith, all your trust in the rider ahead of you because you can't see what's coming. Climb coming up in a few kilometres as well, so a hard section of the race coming up.
Just saw the vital statistics. It's only a short climb, but you can see the damage that climb can do with gradients of upwards of 11%, average of 6% on that climb. And immediately, once the injection of pace from Soudal Quickstep, it was job done for the day for one of the riders from UnoX, who's been doing a sterling job of keeping things under control and keeping that pace high. Alex Coleman and Vincent van Heyman, sorry, Ian.
Yeah, under that pressure, just this little split in the group. So, yeah, but it doesn't look like the hardest climb in the world, but given what the riders have done and what the riders got coming up, there's some sore legs out there already. As we see one of the riders from Intermarché Circus, Wanty, going on the attack. He was the rider that followed that Soudal Quickstep attack. Now he's gone over the top of it.
Almost a climb of two halves. He takes a look around. He's got a little bit of daylight at the moment. One of the riders from Team Flanders Baloise just takes a look over his shoulder, takes a look who is he bringing across with him. It's one of the riders from Lotto Destiny and UnoX who have been ever present. Soudal Quickstep just trying to bridge themselves across as is
Racing for the cross season, but as we see with the likes of Pidcock, Van der Poel, Van Aert, cyclocrossers are changing their mentality coming into these races and looking to get results as well along the way and seeing whether they can kind of divulge onto the road as well. So one of those riders, Joris Nieuwenhuis, is actually doing the complete opposite. So he was a pro on the road with Team DSM, had results at third at Paris Tour in 2020. But then you've also got other riders on that team like Pim Ronhaar, a young up-and-coming cyclocross rider, and yeah, kind of these are his first big experiences on the road. And he won the GC at Flèche de Sud not so long ago, second at GP Van Mark, which is a big national race in Belgium. So he's getting results on the road as well, and it just shows the strength in depth in the crossfield as we see they hit the prison boss for the first time. It's an unpaved sector, only 1.8 kilometres in length, but they do this twice on this finishing lap. So once this time and then on the final lap as well.
And you can see the road surface on the prison boss here, just how rough it is as well.
It is one of the trickier things to get right, so perhaps we're seeing that, as you've said, we've seen a lot more I feel like we've seen a lot more cramp. Obviously cramps happened for decades and years past, but I feel like it's been more and more prominent just recently, and whether it's maybe that nutritional change and riders struggling to get that electrolyte balance correct, it'd be interesting to see if anyone comes out, does a bit of research on it or anything like that.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Like you say, you're trying to take on 120 grams of carbs per hour, but you're not taking on perhaps the salts, the electrolytes that you might have once consumed to the amount of. Very interesting, but as you say, Soudal Quickstep going from an impeccable position with a lead of 47 seconds for Casper Pedersen. And it just comes on all of a sudden. You could see it happening right in front of us on the camera motorbike there. And again, the dynamic will change once again within this race.
It will. I bet the UNX rider can't believe he's lucky. Here's the gap's 47 seconds, goes to the front. Here, next
1 and 2 and 3 out of the back, unable to respond to any of the accelerations. Rasmus Tiller, the Norwegian champion of UnoX, he's a former winner. He knows how to win here in DWARS HET HAGELAND. He won here 2 years ago. Van der Poel on his wheel on his first day back to competition after 62 days away, having won Paris-Roubaix. He's been at altitude, he's been on his training camps, and now we really do have a select group who is forming. Taking a look down at this group, we've got Stan van Trick, Matheu van der Poel, Rasmus Tiller, Yves Lampaert is there, as is Florian Vermeersch. Simon Clark is in this group. Casper Pedersen was the rider who bridged across, and you can see almost in all sorts of difficulty and pain. Søren Varenskjold is in this group for UnoX, the tall, rangy figure on the right-hand side of your screen.
I'm not entirely sure how Casper Pedersen's still pedalling. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago we saw him almost come to a complete halt with...
Lawrence Cheese is in this group behind, as is Hugo Hofstetter of RKS Samsic, you can see, and there's Van der Poel.
Looks like a rear puncher for Van der Poel.
Matheu van der Poel with 20 kilometres to go with the rear wheel puncture. He takes service from the Shimano neutral service motorbike. And we've seen just how many riders have suffered problems and mechanicals in the last 5-6 kilometres. Van der Poel is no exception, and he watches that chasing group go by and go past. There's the team car. That arrives just as the neutral service helps him back on. You can see there is Pim Vronhart, and Van der Poel is back underway.
Extremely strange to see how many punches we've had actually on the asphalt, on the tarmac sections of this race. They'd been on the asphalt for a fairly long, like Zeekum unpaved sector. It's that 4-kilometre section that we've seen cause a lot of problems for people today. They exit that one straight into the grass boss, which is that climb that kicks up to around about 11% in places, and then it's on only 4 more kilometres until they hit that very final cobbled climb up to the finish line.
So much still to come, and only 14 kilometres remaining. The time gap 24 seconds to that second group. That contains Alexander Kristoff, Erik Riesel, Mateusz Kopecki of Team Novo Nordisk, also in that group development team. I think it won't be long until he's called up for more of these races and to be racing with the World Tour team on more occasions. He's signed a contract for the next 2 years, 2024, 2025, with Alpes Interkoning, and showing just how vital he could be to Alpes Interkoning.
That's it for Casper Pedersen. Testing that rear wheel for a puncher, whether it's just his legs have gone, but Stan van Trick coming to the front now and really laying down some power, putting everyone in this leading group under pressure.
Stan van Trick with a huge acceleration over the top of this climb, and it's Rasmus Tiller and Florian Vermeersch who are able to follow the Belgians' wheel. At the moment, Loic Vliegen, Yves Lampaert and Simon Clark, the trio starting to be distanced. Yves Lampaert won't be too concerned because he knows he's got his teammate up the road. He's straight onto the race radio to talk to Stan van Trick. But for Loic Vliegen and Simon Clark, they don't want to let this trio gain any more of an advantage. 12 seconds is the gap to the group behind, which contains Matheu van der Poel. How quickly the race can change.
Interesting that Lampaert wasn't able to follow that one. He was sitting back on that gravel section. So we see now, here's Van der Poel. He has taken 2 riders with him. Obviously has attacked on that climb to try and come across. He's actually going to get some help now.
Sander de Pestel knows he's in a strong position, and if he contributes and works with Van der Poel and Søren Varenskjold, with the time gap, it just increases to 16 seconds. They can put themselves back in with a chance of taking this victory in with 3.5 kilometers to go. All it'll take was for perhaps a little shake of the head, and that's exactly what Stan van Tricht is doing. The rider from Belgium of Soudal Quickstep, he doesn't want to assist and help with Florian Vermeersch or Rasmus Tiller.
Strange situation now. Obviously, Stan van Tricht was the one that attacked up that climb, and now he doesn't look like he wants to be away.
Do you think after a race like today and how...
Grouping behind with Van der Poel still driving it, but he's going to be getting no help from the UX rider in second position.
Into the final kilometre and a half of the Duracell DWARS Het HAGELAND. 23 seconds is the deficit for the group of Van der Poel. The trio behind of Simon Clark, Loic Vliegen and Yves Lampaert are at 7 seconds. And if things continue in this pattern with this trio out front who are currently leading with Van Tricht, with Vermeersch and Tiller, it's all going to come back together. It's all going to regroup. We'll have 6 riders going to the finish line here in Diest.
Just around about 800 metres to go now. 500 metres of cobbles all the way to the finish. Looks like Van der Poel's waved the white flag. He's done for the day. He moves to the back of that group. He won't contest the win today.
Group 3 go under the Flamme Rouge with 1,000 metres remaining. 4 seconds separate the leading trio between the chasing trio. It's currently led by Loic Vliegen. They're on to the cobbles in the Citadel into Diest. This is where the road starts to rise, and could it be a second wave for Simon Clark, number 76 of israelpremiertec at the moment? He's been suffering his way through the race, and you can see from the veteran in the race that he's still got something left. They go through 400 metres to go. They're onto this Citadel. They round that hairpin as things start to kick up, and into the final 300 metres. There's an acceleration from Yves Lampaert from behind, but up towards the front, it's the Norwegian champion Rasmus Tiller. He's won here before in the DWARS Het HAGELAND. He knows how to win here. He puts in another acceleration with 200 metres to go. He's being tracked down by Stan van Tricht, but what has Florian Vermeersch got left? Is he able to respond and try and catch the Norwegian champion? Tricht looks behind with 75 metres remaining, and Rasmus Tiller of unoxprocycling, he's going to take the victory. They were in control all day, arms aloft, and after 4 hours and 8 minutes of racing, it's the Norwegian champion who's victorious.
What a final climb from Tiller. Like you said, he's won this one before. He knows exactly where you have to be, where you have to apply the pressure on that final climb to win that sprint. You have to go a long way from the finish, but I think plenty in the legs, but unfortunately just started that climb too far back. As I say, everyone on their limit at this point, and you look at Florian Vermeersch, just unable to even just come off the wheel. Everyone's just almost going the same speed from that point on.
This was the moment they went through into the Citadel. Rasmus Tiller with 3-4 bike lengths of an advantage over Stan van Tricht. A dominant victory for the Norwegian champion from unoxprocycling. And just taking a look at that replay from the hairpin onto the cobbles, you could see